What's up, everybody? This is BakaBites. I'm Frankfurter. That is Magically Average, and today we're going to talk about our Youmacon experience. Youmacon is one of the bigger anime conventions up in the Detroit area. We had the pleasure of going this weekend and presenting a handful of panels, so we just wanted to talk a little bit about our experience, about the panels we presented, and some learning moments that we had from this weekend, along with, just kind of things we can pass along to you. So, to kind of just hop into it, I know this year was a bit of a rebuild and kind of gaining trust back from convention goers. This was very much a scaled down event compared to previous years, from what I've been told and from what you've told me and our buddy Zach told us. Yeah, this event has been scaled back a lot because they lost a lot of trust last year due to some shenanigans behind the scenes with upper management and reimbursing people for various different things, whether it be the artist alley or the panelists. There was some shenanigans that happened, and a lot of people were upset with it. So I think this year, just the general experience for me, I enjoyed it, but it was very much so a smaller thing. Like the artist alley, we could walk in maybe 2 hours if we were really breezing by through everything, and just stopping every here and there to get through it. I think it was a bit smaller than most conventions probably would be, and I'm sure it's a lot smaller than what this convention has been. But I thought that it was a nice size just for the fact that you could browse through everything in a few hours and then go back through everything if you wanted to in a day and just pick up everything you wanted to pick up that you were potentially debating on, rather than and know where it was, rather than be like, where was this one vendor, what it was, a thing that I wanted here or there. So I don't know, that was just my experience with just the artist alley. I really enjoyed kind of how it was a bit smaller. I don't know about you.
Um, I, I've been 3 or 4 years now to Youmacon. Um, I didn't think it was all that much smaller than usual. I mean, they changed the layout. If you're unaware, it takes place at a large convention hall, and normally it's the same convention hall that they host the auto show every year in Michigan, and it's massive. Like it's a pretty sizable convention center. The main floor has four different sections that are quite large to begin with, on top of at least 25 to 35 sizable rooms to host events, not including a ballroom area as well. So, I mean, the convention center is big. They used up almost every area of the convention center, which is pretty good, other than, I think, two sections of the main floor. I think the bigger issue for this year, and it's primarily due to the fact that it was last second scrambled put together, was just there wasn't enough planning ahead of time. There wasn't enough reach outs to guests, to panelists, even to those attendees that were just coming in, whether it be for a day or the weekend. There just wasn't enough lead time. So I think a lot of it was scrambling around by every single group, whether it's the organizers or people coming to attend the con and just, walk around and enjoy the experience, or those actually helping to put on panels or joining as guests, whatever the case might be. There just wasn't enough time. I know
Yeah.
for us, like, I was monitoring Youmacon for like the entire year because I was under the impression that nothing was happening until probably like April or May of this. In April or May, I looked and was like, oh God, there's so much happening on the back end that I had no clue about, like issues with the managing company and the CEO of Youmacon and like the parent body, and effectively getting not outed, but ousted from the organization, along with a lot of the staff, and then having a completely new regiment come in and do a bunch of overhauling. All this was kind of done, I think, in a very sporadic fashion. to
Yeah.
where I feel they would have probably benefited more if they just took the year off. I get it. They want to have it. They don't want to, lose out on any potential income. Understandable. It is what it is. And I think for what they put on, it was it was good. I just
Yeah.
don't know if it was as good as people would have expected, especially for those who didn't know what was going on previously and what had transpired leading up to the event this past weekend. But I still thought it was good. It was the lack of preparation ahead of time and lead time
Yeah.
that people were given. I feel like that was the bigger downfall. But size wise, everything else was very enjoyable.
To put into perspective, though, just kind of with the lead time, I do remember keeping a bit more tabs on this. I think we found out that we were going to be panelists 2 months before the actual event, which is more lead time than we've gotten for other
Oh,
uh,
you mean like a week?
cons. Yeah, the week of. Yeah, exactly. Which I think that happened what twice this year
Yeah.
potentially. So
Yeah.
better there that we got about 2 months heads up. We didn't know what the schedule was until about the week of or the week before, so it was like that was still kind of bothersome, but whatever. It is what it is. But I do remember it was about a month, maybe a month and a half ago, is when they put out the applications for the vendors, which is a huge, I feel like, no, because
Yeah.
usually vendors are planning out their year, let alone their next 5 months for cons, events, etc. that they're going to show up to, and let alone a month and a half in advance. So I feel like that could have also really been like the main attributing factor, in my opinion, as to why the Artist Alley was a bit smaller. Because I do feel like the vendors who were selling like merchandise and figures and video games and manga and all that, they were much larger than the Artist Alley, which was kind of like three half rows.
Yeah. I mean, that's from my experience at Youmacon, that's kind of standard. Normally Artist Alley is minimum half of whatever the regular vendor area is. It
Mm.
typically is right around a third. Um, and I feel like the vendor or the Artist Alley itself was sizable enough in a comparison to the vendors. Again, I don't think there was anything with the size. I think what they were able to put together within a short period of time was very acceptable. It would have been more shocking if you went in and there was like a handful of local vendors on top of like scattered artists that
Yeah.
just kind of threw together whatever they had from like maybe a previous con they had gone to, and this was just kind of leftover inventory. That would have been much more egregious of like, yeah, you probably should have waited. This one I felt like it was still enjoyable. Again, if you're an attendee, no idea what was happening, just took it like any other year. This is the time for Youmacon. You went in, you probably thought, hey, things are in different locations, right? Things are set up a little bit differently than it was before. Granted, it's been different every year I had gone so far, too, for whatever reason there might be. Um, I don't think anyone would have batted an eye and said, wow, this one was much smaller or it lacked a lot of what I expect from my Youmacon. I think people might have said, "Hey, the attendance might have been down," which that's probably more telling of something would have happened, whether it's people boycotting or people just not being able to go on such short notice. Because we basically, to kind of get a timeline in play, it started October 31st and went till November 3rd. So yeah, it ended yesterday of the time of our recording. Um, I believe we didn't get the final. We got like a soft, hey, I am the new CEO. I was the former treasurer, I think, or they were in the financial division of some kind, whether it was for Youmacon or some other con. I can't remember. But the individual who took over was like, "Hi, I'm the new person. I'm going to be transparent. Here's what's going down," and basically finished off their initial statement with, "We still planned on having Youmacon. Rest assured, we are still fighting to put this on for you." This was in maybe July, we'll say. End of June, early July.
August 10th.
No, never mind. I was way off. End of July, early August.
Yeah.
that was when they were like, hey, we still plan to have it. Now, this was still like, if you were to go to Youmacon's website at the time, it was still showing like last year's guests and stars and performing artists and things like that. Like they hadn't even updated the website, but they had made a comment to say, we are striving, pushing forward to have this ready for you all by our target date. And I was like, okay, I will be very happy if they do. If they don't, totally fine, understandable. I was very pessimistic. I was like, there's no way, right? We're getting this news update. If you weren't aware and you were now reading it like myself, it was just kind of a lot of red flags of, okay, you're running out of time. You don't even have tickets ready. What are hotel blocks going to look like for those traveling outside? From not from Michigan. What all is going to have to go into just getting everything set up too? Because keep in mind too, tomorrow from our recording is election day, and at the time the convention center was also having live in-person polling and like absentee ballot drop off too. So there was like a whole section for just that as well that they had to navigate through and figure out, okay, where we're going to set up all of our stuff. So it was a lot. I, again, being pessimistic, was like, it's not going to happen. And that's okay. Probably 2-3 weeks after that, made another comment about all the things that happened over the past last year and what had happened previously, mainly being people not being reimbursed appropriately for their badges if they were panelists, or issues with Artist Alley and the vendors not getting compensated appropriately or refunded appropriately. Just a whole bunch of bad things taking place financially, and was again very transparent about it. And then capped it off by saying, we're addressing these things. We're still moving forward. We hope to see you at Youmacon. Like I said, that was like probably a couple weeks after.
Real quick timeline change. August 8th was the new announcement of the new chairman slash CEO. August 10th was about reimbursement. So it was 2 days after the announcement of the new chairwoman or chairman
Okay.
slash
I
CEO.
think they made another comment though about like how to actually get reimbursed. It was like a, hey, we're sorry about last.
That was October 8th.
Okay. So then that
So it was
was
2 months
a while
later.
after. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, regardless, still nothing about tickets, still nothing about panels, still nothing about guests, like nothing to indicate to me, hey, this is definitive, they're going to put it on.
Right.
I think we got a Facebook update or some email about, hey, surprise, surprise, here's panel applications. I want to say that those were opened up beginning of September,
I feel like
end of
you
August.
submitted those earlier than any of this. I feel like you submitted those before any of the
No,
announcements.
no.
And my timeline
I'm
on that is
I'm telling you that this was and I will bring up my email because I even have it. But I'm telling you that this was a very quick turnaround.
right.
Like something to where, again, I was under the impression like, this is probably not going to happen. Let's see. Going through my whole email list now. I don't even have an email. I just have MomoCon stuff. Oh, you know what? This is probably, and it's probably because I used my actual email. That doesn't seem right. I guess so.
Did you not use our joint email?
I don't know, but regardless, the timeline was quite
Panelist
sporadic.
application August 9th. You submitted one August 9th, August 11th, and then
Okay,
we got word back September
September 13th.
13th.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the timeline. So it was September 13th.
Yeah.
So a month and a half.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, but again, like if you're someone traveling out of town, or if you're someone that does a lot of cons and it's like scheduling wise, the week of ones that was like not even close to being acceptable, because they had their own problems for those two. But
Yeah, they
I
actually
mean,
had similar problems to what this con had, it's just
well,
they handled it differently.
one of the cons did. Yeah,
Yeah,
the other
they
one was
just
just
handled
very
it.
the other one's very small, and I think their PR is just kind of poor, but it
Yeah.
is what it is. I
Yep.
again, everything was just it seemed very rushed. But again, we took it in stride. We were like, "All right, great. It's happening. It's going down. This is wonderful." I came in with no expectations though, because again, I knew everything that was happening. I did not anticipate it being like the best of the best years. Like, oh, it's going to be like,
Right.
when I first went and it was just huge and every day was packed. It was going to be a lot of people boycotting, a lot of people just not realizing that it was going on, and a lot of people not being able to schedule it in because it was so late. So,
Yep.
but I mean, overall, I still think it was fine for what it was. I'm not saying it was well put together. I'm not saying that they did a great job leading up to it. I think again, everything was on a very shortened timeline, and they could have just done a better job by not putting it on. But they went forward, and I think with that execution, they did a fine job.
Yeah. Although I will say I was half pooping my pants that this stuff was not going to happen for the fact that we walked in Thursday to pick up our badges and they're like, "Oh, you're panelists. Okay, come back tomorrow. You don't need a badge for Thursday."
Yeah,
And I'm thinking to myself, they don't have badges. They don't have anything. This is going to just be really rough. And so that started out our day, and then immediately after that we went into our panel room to present our first panel, which happened at 5 p.m. on a Thursday, but to our dismay, pass registration, or when people could get their passes, they sit in the general admission line for, paid passes. That was Thursday at 6 p.m. So we presented a panel to a room, like a giant panel room that was like 250, close to 300 people, or large, and I think there was maybe 5 people in there,
yeah.
something like that, which, you know what?
I
It is what it is. It's a Thursday. We learned that, like, if you're gonna get scheduled, Thursday is definitely not the day you want, but it is what it is.
no, I yeah. Rule of thumb for any people that like organized cons that listen to this, or this ever comes across your feed somehow, don't schedule panels on a Thursday. Okay. If you're the type of con that does like hey, Thursday, we're going to open up at like 3 to 8. And it's mainly just to get your badges. And we're going to have some just kind of fun, get the week going type events going on. Like for Youmacon, they do every year, they do what's called a garage sale. So people can, if you're not like a vendor, but you have a lot of stuff that you
Want to
want to just
sell.
get rid of, right? If it's figures or if it's sealed merchandise, whatever the case might be, you can rent a spot and you can go and kind of set up your own little booth and sell your belongings at the
Yeah.
garage sale. It's cool. It's a good opportunity again for people to just kind of offload a bunch of stuff if they don't want it, and rather than selling it online or actually doing your own garage sale or whatever the case might be, you can do it at Youmacon. Um, but that other than that, it's just Thursdays are meant to just go get your badge and then you dip. Like that's it. And they had, I think, like 7 to 10 panels in total that day. Like we weren't the only ones going on. There was like a
We
high
had 2 panels that day.
yeah, we did. We had let's see, what was competing with us? We had the
We had a Pokemon Go meetup.
yep,
We had a Genshin Impact panel of
that's what it
some
was.
sort.
I kept wanting I was thinking of Honkai Star Rail. I was like, it's not that one, it's the other one. Yeah, Genshin Impact. Um yeah, and then on top of the fact that right when our panel started, people were going to get their badge, and the garage sale was going on. So yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate because it was again the same panel that we had put on at MomoCon, where our mics didn't work in another big room, and we're fighting with a K-pop concert going across on the other side of the hall, which was blaring. So it was we're basically 0 for 2 on that panel.
Yeah.
It's about time that thing retires, I guess. But they
Yeah.
were, I
There
will
were
say, the person manning the front door and kind of checking in with us, they were very nice. They said, "Hey, my manager or the organizer, wanted to ask if you wanted to put this on again, since this was kind of a shitty situation with everything, and we were like, yeah, if you'll have us, thinking like, hey, cool, redemption, we'll get it in
Yeah.
during the con. I think we got set up for Friday. Was it Friday or
We got
Saturday?
Friday at 5:30,
Yeah,
I wanna say.
Friday at 5:30, which is a pretty good time, right? People are probably, if you took the day off, you're still at the con. If you didn't, you're probably getting there right around that time. You might get interested. But again, I wouldn't even count it as a win. I say 0 for 3 for this. We were only scheduled during that time because we replaced a panel that was
Got
canceled,
canceled.
which was the Kingdom Hearts panel. So we had a number of folk come over and be like, "Is this the Kingdom
Oh,
Hearts?" And we're like, "It's not Kingdom Hearts. We're
I
sorry.
felt
It's
I
not our
felt
fault."
I really wanted one guy to stay because, like, it was 2 I only saw 2 people. One of them poked their head out and was like and I instantly saw them looking around like, "What the heck is going on?" And I looked at him and I was like, "If you're looking for the Kingdom Hearts panel, it was canceled, but we're putting on a panel about anime if you wanna have anime recommendations, whatever." And he was like, "Okay, thanks," and just left. But the guy behind him, I really wanted to stay because he was full blown dressed up as Sephiroth
Yeah.
from like, and I was just like, "God damn it! I really like.
Sephiroth.
I just want to talk to this dude. I just want to talk to this dude about this whole get up." But they unfortunately left, and there were a handful of other people that before the panel came, there were a couple people that came in. We told them that if you're here for the Kingdom Hearts panel, it got canceled. They left, and a couple other people that came in like at the beginning, and we told them, and they also dipped. But there was one
Yeah.
guy like mid panel came in with like a keyblade made out of Legos, and we told him what we were doing, and he just was like, "Cool," and just sat down and
Yeah.
just talked to us. But it was kind of yeah, it was another one of those unfortunate instances where it's also Friday 5:30. If you didn't take time off, you were just getting to the con, so you're
Yeah.
probably trying to get your badge. And actually, it was at 5 o'clock. I just looked it up again through our messages. It was 5 p.m. on Friday.
Yeah.
So again, you're just getting off work. It wasn't a big crowd puller, which is fine. It wasn't updated on. It was updated on their website, but like you had to go to the specific room to look at it. There wasn't like an overview calendar anymore, and everything
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it was going to be way too late to change anything on
Eh,
printed, so that was fine. But
Yeah.
we still
Normally,
put it on. We still had a good crowd. We still had a lot of fun conversations in that,
oh yeah.
despite the adversities we had with that panel the 3 times we've tried to do it.
Yeah.
I feel like we've had a lot of good conversations with that panel, but it's just a matter of getting a good time slot.
Yeah.
And that's just 5 p.m. time slot on any weekday, whether it be Friday or Thursday. It's just not gonna go well.
Yeah. Because the other one that we led was one that my wife and I put on in Vegas for Sumicon, which was the Anime Inc. panel. That was Saturday at 5:30, and we had a really good turnout. Probably about the same size as Sumicon, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah,
But
and that was the same room as our second time doing the same panel.
yeah,
So it was the
yeah.
same exact room, and I think your Anime Inc. panel, it filled up the entire room, and then slowly but surely throughout the presentation, whenever somebody got something that they wanted out of it, they would just pass through, which is
So
it's fine. That's oh
so that well, no, that's so we're going through like lessons and recap.
yeah,
So first lesson, don't schedule things on Thursday.
yes,
That's obvious. Second lesson I got from presenting, because we did technically 5 panels in total if you count the double up on our animes for everyone. Because we also were, or at least I was on two of my wife's panels. Um, the second lesson I learned is there is no one formula for getting people into a room. And what I mean by that is it can be educational, it can be interactive, it can be just like something where you go in and you turn your brain off and you watch a video, right? All of those are attractive to people, is what I've learned. Because when my wife put on her panels, which were a simp showdown, so basically a roast of everyone's simps, they came up, kind of did a hear me out. We wooed when it was inappropriate age wise. And the
except for
crowd
the
was,
first one, which we should have. When we
yeah,
just
yeah, we
weren't
didn't.
in the
We
mindset
made an
quite yet.
error. We made an error.
Fucking Asuka.
Asana.
Asuna, sorry,
There you
Asuna.
go. Yeah, it was, and that one had a lot of people because one, it was 18 plus too, so people are like, "Ooh, spicy, all right."
Which I was
Um,
also very surprised, real quick side note, that the people running the event, they, like, checked IDs for
no, no,
18.
it's serious. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because
I was
Youmacon is
very surprised, but also, happy about that.
yeah, Youmacon is all ages, so they have to, if something's marked as 18 plus, they have to ID. So
Mhm.
yeah, good on them for doing that. But that one was jam packed, and that was a lot of fun. And obviously, that's entirely fan interactive. We invite people come up. We show pictures of who they simp for, and then we give our rating and talk smack about the person that they adore. This, that, and the other. So that one was fun. The other one was Fandom Feud, which was a Family Feud style. Bring up four players on for two teams, so eight people total. They go back and forth on different categories. That one was all interactive as well. That one was really popular, had a lot of people. And then the Anime Inc. one was kind of a mix and match of like somewhat of educational, somewhat interactive, and we got a lot of people there too. But like, it's hard to peg down exactly what people really want, because during the Anime Inc. panel, um, I saw a number of people get up and leave the moment I was done with the like history of tattooing in Japan, to which I thought, man, I should speed through this because this is kind of like the boring stuff. But the moment I got done with that, people were like, all right, I'm out of here. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, okay.
I
And then
got
the
my
moment I
learning
was,
done for the day.
yeah, and then I was like, all right, floor's open. Give us your, anime tattoo ideas, questions about tattooing, questions about traveling with tattoos to Japan. And like at that point, another kind of cluster of people got up and left. So like it's hard to gauge what people enjoy. Obviously the ones that are like the I guess fully interactive participation ones, like the Simp Showdown and Fandom Feud, like those are always going to get a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Especially if they're well run, and I feel like my wife did a fantastic job. Her and her co-hosts did a fantastic job of getting those set up. And
Agreed.
they had great interaction too. So, but then yeah, and then like for the Anime Inc. one, I was impressed by our turnout. But then again, there was like people were kind of sporadically leaving during the educational, like after the educational stuff, and I was like, man, should I just make this almost entirely educational at this point? Like, do people like that? And then I look at other panels, and it's like, you know, the history of this video game, or like an entire breakdown of this anime series, and I'm like, you know what, people do sit down for those and like fully invest their time into learning about the backstory of a game or the lore of a whole anime series, right? It's like
Yeah. We've
it's hard to gauge.
It is, and we've also been those participants where we've been in the crowd, and when it's gotten to a certain point, we dip out of a panel. Like, I remember when we did go to Momocon, we went to a panel about injuries in anime, or how injured are you in anime, and it was a bit
Yeah,
from an EMT's perspective. And then once it got to like fans offering up clips that they wanted to see and what their opinions of those clips would have been, we both were like, okay, this is fine. We're done with this. It's fine. So it's like,
yeah,
it is weird to be on both sides of that coin, of just like, how do you keep people engaged and sitting in seats? And I think it is one of those things, like, trying to do 50-50 is a bit harder.
yeah,
And it's better to do something that is fully either one or the other.
yeah. What I've gathered, sort of what I learned from those experiences is, um, make it either fully interactive or fully educational. I feel like the kind of people are split between the two. They don't really want like a half and half. And for most,
Right.
I should say most of the time. That doesn't mean it's blanket across everyone or it's an objective statement. It just seems like a lot of people are like really interested in interacting with panelists and doing those type of events versus individuals who are more interested in just kind of listening to someone who's experienced on something or knowledgeable on something, and just kind of learning, gaining knowledge through that medium, however the case might be. So
Yeah.
that was the other lesson. um I Yeah, the
The other
panels were
lesson that we
fun.
learned, yeah, and the last panel that we did learn, and this was kind of one of the ones that we felt really bad about because we didn't even take it into consideration.
I
was if you are doing a fan interaction, like, it's completely, like, dependent on the crowd participation. We did not realize that there were, mobility,
accessibility attendees.
accessibility attendees, and it was one of those things that eventually we got to the point where we were picking people out of the crowd and talking to the people in the crowd rather than having them come up, but at that point, it was a little too late. So
I
if you
so
are doing one of those, I think that's on the con to have specific spots
yeah.
for those attendees, but also like if you were a panelist and you're unsure, like going into like if you don't see those spots, definitely ask and get those opinions first, and then go to people who are more mobile to finish out your panel.
And I should say too, it wasn't like there were
It wasn't malicious by any means. Like
no,
it
no, no,
was
no, no.
something that we were just like,
That's not what I was gonna say. I was just gonna say it wasn't apparent, right? It wasn't
yeah,
like we had individuals coming in wheelchairs, or they were, on crutches, or there was anything visible that would indicate to us like, hey, this person should probably take a front row seat, or this person, should have easier access to a microphone, whether we give it to them or it's in a location that they can easily get access to, right? It was individuals that had badges, some of which, I mean, I maybe saw one once it was pointed out to me, like that had accessibility on them that meant that they had limited mobility and required additional assistance. I put that on the con, like organizers and people organizing the rooms, to say, hey, if you have any sort of accessibility issues or mobility issues, please take the front row if you wish to participate, or if you wish to, have easier access, right? Like normally at any type of event where attendees come in and out and there's presentations, there's like dedicated rows in the front for like, this is how they normally label them. I'm not saying this is the appropriate way to do so, but this is for like, these seats are reserved for handy capable people, right?
right,
Whether they are, bound to wheelchair or have limited mobility, whatever the case might be. Like this is a dedicated section for people with accessibility issues. That wasn't the case at Youmacon. And again, I think maybe just poor foresight on their part to have that, since obviously it's a badge they offer, which is again strange that
yep.
wasn't taken into consideration. But I mean, we got by it. We basically just had the individuals who were helping us to get people into the room and everyone situated came up to us and were like, hey, you can't have a line anymore because we have folks here that have accessibility issues. And we're like, okay, totally understand. We'll just call from the seats. But it was one of those things where I'm like, I wish we would have known. I would have just
Hmm.
kept the first, row across the three different sections available. But
Yeah, because they
yeah,
they definitely filled them in and were like, just go to the front rows first and then fill them in.
yeah. It wasn't like a clear message to the people to say, hey, if you have accessibility issues, please, go or keep the front row reserved for those with accessibility issues or mobility
Yeah.
issues. Like it was just
So
kind of
I
a
did.
get your ass in
I
the room. Don't leave
It
spaces.
was like after the fact, like I felt like I was so drained after that I just didn't even say a word, and I felt bad about that. But yeah, I felt bad about that whole situation of just not even thinking about it, let alone providing a solution. So
Yeah, I mean it's
I think that was the biggest learning experience for me. It was just like, hey, be on the lookout for that in the future, whether it be for whatever panel we do in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we're taking into consideration now moving forward. Like, hey, if it's fully fan interactive, one, make it blatantly obvious for the organizers to say in our panel submission or description or whatever, this is full, attendee interactive. Like, this is a full guest participation. We expect people who want to participate to either come up or this and that, right? And then from that, say, when we're there, hey, if you want to participate, because it really only would apply if they wanted to participate. If they were content sitting like in the back and just observing and watching, like great, totally fine. But if they, if anyone wants to participate and you need additional assistance or require, additional help getting access to the microphone, please let us know and we'll put you in the front row. Like that's
Yeah.
the easiest uh lesson that I was learned from that was just try to do as much as we can, but at the same time, also have the organizers help out too. Just be like, hey, yo, reserve the front rows. Like it's super
Yep.
easy.
Yep. So we've learned that lesson. We'll go into the future knowing that lesson very much so. Like I know that that'll be on the forefront of my mind going forward.
Yeah.
But I think overall with our panels, despite our problems with the first two, technically our anime is for everyone being scheduled at 5 o'clock on Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
I did enjoy our time with the rest of our panels with the Simp Showdown. I helped with the fandom feud as well. My wife was clicking the answers, and I was basically telling her what to click.
You were doing the fact check. Yeah, you were doing
I
the
was,
you were the
I was
answer
the like,
checking.
yeah. But I will say, if you are in the audience and it is a fan participation, and the people behind the computer are a little slow or cannot spell because I cannot spell, have a little fucking decency to not boo the
Well,
man.
I yeah, it I think it's a countermeasure for guests or for attendees that are coming up and participating and for fans too, since it was advertised as a roast, that if you mess up you get roasted too, sort of situation. Like if you're
Yeah.
throwing fire, I'm gonna throw it right back at you. So
Yeah,
yeah, I the the constant poking fun of misspelling and things like that, first off, um
I'm just a
they're all
dumb kid, okay?
well, it also doesn't help that it's not like they're like, my anime simp is Greg Joe, and it's like, okay, I know how to spell Greg Joe.
Yeah,
It's like
the
my anime simp is Feng Shiwei Chochi from
so
this game,
that
from
was the
this
thing.
like oblivious
I'm
game that no one's heard of. I'm like, what the
I'm
fuck? Spell it.
yeah, I'm okay with, like, the Japanese names because, like, those anime, like, I've probably seen, I probably know who they are. It was all the Korean and Chinese names where I'm not
I mean,
familiar with how to spell those names.
it was Japanese names for me too, because they would say some fucking obscure anime, and I'm like, what? From
Yeah,
what?
I think the one Japanese one that got me was the, like, kinda the tall but also lowly goth girl
Oh,
that, like
mine was from like the anime that the dude said, and then we looked up pictures, and it was from like the 1980s. And I'm like,
oh,
who the
that's
fuck?
right.
What the fuck is this? Like, who the fuck is
She's
that?
got bangs and she's developed.
And she likes pizza. Yeah. No, I like, I was like, damn, like,
That was
just
really the funniest fucking
yeah,
one.
like just spell it. If it's not blatantly obvious, right? Like
Yes.
when ProZD hosted a similar panel at PAX 2 years ago, and we went and attended, and I jumped up there because we sat right near the mic because we are smart human beings.
Yes.
Um,
Also, pro tip: if you are in the audience and you really want to be in a big panel that's like has somebody roasting you or doing something like that, sit as close to the microphone as you can
yeah,
because it's easy. As soon as he's like, "Let's get participants," you just stand up and you
just
just go.
yeah, that's basically what I did. But I said Remy from Black Lagoon. Like that's
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
It's super straightforward. You could just look up Black Lagoon too. Again, mine
And
was not like some crazy long name with it sounds like it's only vowels from this anime that's no one heard of, or this like gotcha game that's only in Japan but somehow you VPN in and you have it now. Like it's not like that, right? Like it just be aware of what you're saying and understand that 99% of the people probably don't know what you just said, so spell it. It's
yeah,
that simple. It was
because that's
when
something.
it was when they were spelling it and you were fat fingering that people were like, "Boah!" And I was like, I can't defend you there, man. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm helping, and I would even
Dude,
poke fun at you.
my brain was in overload and just dead at that point in
No,
time,
I
like,
know.
halfway through it, and I was like it didn't help. Also, another, tip for people who are organizing events, if you have panelists that have submitted a panel and they've submitted, "Hey, there are 4 people on this panel," have 4 microphones.
Yeah.
Don't do this 3 microphone crap. Because I felt like a
It
toddler trying to ask for uppies because Tyler had the fucking microphone
up
standing up, and I'm just like, "I want the microphone, please. Give me the
uppies.
goddamn microphone."
Uppies.
Yeah, like, I literally
Well,
had to, like, smack your belly to be like, "Give me the goddamn microphone so I could
well,
roast this person."
everything changed too, because like originally we were like, oh shit, 3 mics, that sucks. And we were like, that's okay. We're gonna have one mic dedicated for people coming up. We're just gonna put on like a chair or something. We're gonna
Yeah,
have one mic for
and
the
then we
two
could
of
split
us,
the 2 of us and the
and
other
then
for the other 2.
the last mic which for my wife and her co-host. So like it kind of worked out, and then everything kind of shifted around, and then things got chaotic because it was like panic picking people, and
Yeah.
you were speed typing and trying to be quick on our feet, and the girls were like going crazy, and I'm like, oh my god, this is just too much. So yeah, it was fun, and again, it's kind of goes back to the other lesson I had, which was like that was entirely fan interactive, and the room was packed. We had mentioned that they when we were getting set up in the panel room, my wife's co-host, who can only be best described as just an anxious ball, um,
Yeah.
just kind of an anxious being all around, uh, overheard that the room was going to be capped, and I
There was no standing room, nothing.
no
You as
standing room.
soon as the last seat was taken, that was it.
Yeah, and I thought I heard her shit bricks. Um, so that was funny. But yeah, I mean, like that was a lot of fun. I think
Yeah.
I
Again,
get
I think even the animes for everyone panel that we had struggles with, I think I had a lot of fun with those because we actually got to voice like our opinions about things, but it's not in the sense of just like I hate this for this reason. It's like we talked to individuals who we told them we didn't like a show for whatever reason, and we gave our reasons behind it, and people were like, "Okay, I understand. It's not you hated my favorite thing. Blah, 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 blah. You're wrong
yeah.
about everything." It was just like, okay, from that perspective, I understand. So it was nice talking to people and having a bit of a mutual understanding as to like, hey, I'm not just disliking this show because I dislike it. I dislike this show for X, Y, Z, and vice versa too. Like we gave suggestions, and people were like, "I didn't like that." It's like fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, I will say the intent of that panel though is to sort of shed some light on the fact that it is very challenging to identify an anime that you would like if you're new to anime or are very specific in what you like in anime, whatever the case might be.
Yeah,
Regardless of how many anime you've watched, like it's hard to, in a pool of thousands upon thousands to choose from, find a handful or even like a large portion that could interest you without first giving them all like a 3 episode watch, right? And so
yeah,
like our goal was to just sort of illustrate that to people and showcase that through like how things are tagged on live chart and mal, and how different anime can be grouped in one genre when they are pretty fluid amongst a number of different genres. So it then sort of spirals into, and spirals in a good way, but like it trickles down to people saying, I like this, what are your suggestions? And that's exactly what we want to hear. Sometimes then it goes into, I like this, do you like this? And it's like, no. And they're like, okay. And then
yeah.
that's just sort of where it leaves off, and you're like, all right. But yeah, I mean, the the thought behind it is great. I feel like it's a matter of whether or not people are interested in sitting there to be like, yeah, I do need an anime recommendation, because I bet most people are just like, Google, show me best new anime that me will likey, and go
Yeah.
from there. So
I did appreciate the one guy real quick. The last aside before we kind of move on slash wrap up. The one guy who was looking for like 90s, 80s, 90s sci-fi anime and just having recently watched one this year and just being off the rip being like, hey, there's one on Prime, it's 6 episodes, if you don't mind it being a complete kind of like mid anime for the fact that it is 6 episodes, so like the plot kind of goes by pretty quickly and it is a product of its time, like here's one that you probably never heard of. Like it was kind of nice to be able to flex those
yeah,
muscles a little bit. So
yeah,
but
it's always good to flex your knowledge on anime whenever you can, in a positive way, not like a haha, I'm better than you way. Like
yeah,
one of the gentlemen who was very nice and kind, but
it
started off
was.
our panel by asking a question almost like 2 seconds in to be like, do you know this anime? And we're
And
like,
we're like, no,
no, we
you're
don't. And
not
he's like, he's
perfect.
like, "Rah, rah, rah." And I'm like, okay, gonna go,
And
this is a good
then
start.
eventually kind of settled down and we're like, and he understood like, okay, we do have knowledge. We have seen a lot of stuff. It's
Yeah,
just
but
we haven't seen everything.
I made the executive decision beforehand that this panel is being retired in place of another one that we have. So we'll see what
I think
happens.
we'll tweak it. I think we'll tweak it and it might come back. It's just it's got
Yeah.
to be tinkered with.
Yeah. I think
So,
that's kind of the fourth lesson too, is that the realization, like even the panels that did really well, like the Sim Showdown, the Fandom Feud,
yep.
the Anime Inc., all of them need to be tweaked for positive reasons. So it's like
Yes. Also,
it's that feeling of like never feel like you're content with what you did, especially if it's something that you want to repeat in, at different cons or the same con in the future. Like you should always just go in with the mindset that I can improve on something, and then identifying that one thing. Like for Anime Inc., I know the one thing I can improve on is certainly including more history, because I feel like a lot of people seemed more interested and intrigued by learning the history of tattooing in Japan, and making it a bit more educational, less so like, hey, now we're gonna transition to tattooing 101, or like how to get a tattoo.
yeah. Yeah, no, we've learned a lot of good lessons here. We enjoyed our con experience, I think, as a whole, despite how rushed it did feel. Because I did say the same thing, like when we were there, that it felt kind of slapstick together. But overall, it was a great weekend. It was nice to just even be around friends and just enjoy each other's time,
Yeah.
because we live not halfway across the country, but we live on opposite sides of the country. In which you're on the northern side, I'm on the southern side, so it's nice to always be able to hang out with you in person and everything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, and thank you all for hanging out with us. We greatly appreciate your time. We will be back next week with a brand new episode. But if you want more of us, we are on social medias. You can find us on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Occasionally, whenever we repost onto those platforms, where we post shorts. So you can find us there. We are at Baka&Co Podcast everywhere. But again, we will be back next week. So until then, Spark Triumph. We'll see you later.